Good afternoon, everyone. Ragewood here, back from a fresh haircut, and back with another Godforge video. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the recent podcast episode done by Chosen, Dane, and Dirk. They themselves had a few spoilers for us in that one, so I'm going to point out some of the key points in that one and give a general reaction. And also, for the first time, I think, in a while, they also shared something that concerned me. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So, as I normally do with these podcast episodes that we get on a Tuesday and a Thursday generally, I'm going to leave it on mute in the background and only bring the volume back up on the times that I've got written down here. As always, you can go check out the full episode. I'll leave the link in the description down below. It is a good one. It's good to get the perspective from different teams and how they as a studio have evolved, where actually they can't have their fingers in all the pies now, which is kind of interesting. They're having to learn to trust each other sort of a lot more with their briefs and things like that, which was cool. We're going to jump ahead to a few different things and go from there.
But the character concepts are strong. We've almost knocked out all the commons and rares. So it's almost like, okay, all the kind of rank and file, the most expected designs, if we're talking about like, I don't know, the historical cliches or cultural mythological cliches, have sort of been addressed. And we're in that stage now where the concept artists are getting a pipeline and leeway to make really inventive, cool new things, that really speak to Godforge and not just to any sort of mythologically based IP.
So that's kind of cool to hear. So all of the, I'm not going to call them boring, but generic characters from sort of common, I assume he means uncommon as well rather than rares, but if they have done common, uncommon and rares, that's cool. But yeah, what he's getting at is, like Asgard, we have Viking, Berserker, and, if there was a Roman faction, Roman soldier, Greek hoplite, Mayan or Saber man. All of those kind of characters are basically done, which is kind of cool. So even the ones that we've not seen too much of, like, for example, Svarga and Jade, all of their sort of commons and uncommons are finished, and that is pretty exciting. So now they're just working on the cool stuff, and let's be honest, it's like a Sunday roast. You eat your vegetables first so you can save the roast potatoes and your Yorkshire pudding and all the good stuff till last. So I thought that was a pretty cool thing that Dane pointed out there. So jumping forward a couple more minutes now, and they were talking about how nice Hell had turned out, and that the art department smashed it, that kind of thing, completely met the vision that game design had. But the Dirk here, I think, drops the first time we've heard a particular character, at least officially from them. Now, this particular character, I could have sworn they did a poll or something asking, who we wanted in the game for different characters, and I could have sworn that I mentioned this guy. So the fact that he's been brought up, I'm really hoping he's in. In fact, I've even gone out on a limb and started to make a page for this person on my website. CB officially confirmed, obviously, but it's also interesting how, and you'll hear it in the first sentence, how little information the art department have to go off.
Look at a small, like, all we have is a little, like, not even a one sentence, like, brief to go off of that we're giving you guys, and you guys just took that and just like, man, it turned out so good. I think it's one of those things, like, it's kind of joking before, but whenever we're like looking up the stuff for these characters, we're like, what does this guy look like? And then so you kind of do like a Google image search, you put some character's name, like Kamazot, you're like, all right, what does this guy look like here?
Kamazot, that's right, Kamazot. Who is Kamazot? Kamazot is a Mesoamerican I could have sworn he was Mayan. He could have been Incan. Bat God. A bat dog. He's really cool. So if we jump on Wikipedia, Camazotz is a bat spirit in the service of the lords of the underworld. Camazotz means death bat in sort of their local language, and there are some big names linked to sort of his story, if you will. So the Mayan hero twins, Hunahpu and Xibalonke, they are huge. I'd be surprised if they weren't in the game. Sort of encounter this person during the underworld trials of Xibalba, who is another massive name that I expect to see. Unfortunately, they hide in their blowguns when they're being circled by these death bats. Hunahpu sticks his head out and Camazotz bites it off, and then the gods use it as a football in their next ball game. Well, it's not football, it's like the one where they sort of jimmy their hips to get it off the wall and through the ring. I can't remember what it's called. But yeah, Camazotz, what a big name to drop. Accidentally, of course, but still. So literally right after sort of that little drop that Dirk gave us there, chosen our stain about the general schedule. We'll play it through, get my thoughts on it after.
No pressure, Dane. But I guess from the viewer standpoint, probably what they would be curious about, or I know what I would be curious about if I was watching, is from the art side. And before we move on to Dirk, from the art side, do you feel like we're like ahead of schedule? I know because we're being pretty ambitious, wanting to be one of the upper tier games in terms of volume of heroes that we launch with. You feel like it's we're ahead of schedule on the pipeline, or falling behind, or kind of holding serve?
I feel like, well, I know we've already made some concessions to the overall initial release. So, in terms of how many heroes are released, so to the updated numbers, we're right on schedule. I wouldn't say we're ahead or behind. Yeah, we're doing as expected. There's a little bit of variability because the legendaries and the really unique heroes and the really unusual heroes, like most of the heroes we've dealt with, still kind of constrain to a standard heroic or an extra long exaggerated heroic body type. We only have those 4 types. But obviously we have a lot of other creatures and beasts and, you know, lizard men, werewolf types, and sphinxes, and so there's variability in there. And also some of these characters are like Hindu gods with 1,000 heads and 8 arms, and or unusual weapons, or the Baba Yaga, who's like a little hut on chicken legs. And we have to decide which one of those are going to be sort of reimagined into a kind of standard humanoid shape, or get the unique treatment, because we think it's a really cool idea that fits well within the broader kind of pantheon of our characters. So I'll just...
So, interesting details shared there. Firstly, we'll start with that the team have had to make concessions on the number of heroes they launch with. Now, this will sort of link back to, or sort of, I guess, answers a question that I had, I think, in my reaction video to Tuesdays, where Hell Hades mentioned that the beta was going to have 100 heroes. Whereas on a previous sort of art thing done by Dane, it showed that they were looking for 152. So they have had to cut back. And then you imagine that has also stepped over to the full game release. So we're probably not going to have 250 heroes on launch. Looks like there's going to be less. Now, even if it's 200, that's still a lot of heroes to play with, guys. So it's not like, that's not the bit that's concerning for me. But it's interesting that since they've had to step back and look at everything, perhaps they realise actually it's, you know, a bit ambitious with the materials they've got right now, or something like that. And so they've really had to rethink about, you know, where to prioritise their time to allow Fateless to have the biggest success in the future. So I thought that was a really interesting thing, and sort of explains my shock, I suppose, when Hell Hades mentioned it was only going to be 100 for beta, when I had perceived there to be 150. Then they're talking about sort of to do with the rig. The reason why they were putting Svarga till last is because their rig certainly fit standard heroic body types, Hercules, muscle man, skinny person. Whereas, making a Hindu god with 8 arms and 1,000 faces is going to be very difficult. So, you're going to have to look about how do they get creative with someone like that. And then he also mentions Baba Yaga. Now, we have seen Baba Yaga's hut in a spoiler somewhere before, I'm pretty sure. And something that I'd completely forgotten about, to be fair. But again, a hero that seems to have been confirmed. You would imagine they'll be in Virage. So again, I have made a page for Baba Yaga there. And he also talks about werewolf characters. Again, I don't know where they would be from. You would imagine Virage or even Saber. That kind of... that's where I picture sort of werewolves potentially being. Lizard Men too, that's pretty cool. Perhaps they're talking about Sobek for Aru. That would be a really cool. He is the crocodile god there. So yeah, a few little details shown to us. And saying a couple heroes spoiled, which was really cool. Skipped forward maybe 5 minutes, now they're talking about sort of hero design, people coming through the pipeline, that kind of thing. This is going to be an extended play, I think. I think everyone sort of needs to hear a lot of this. So yeah, we're just going to let it run through.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say same thing, just even on the design side now. A lot of these characters, like, I'll get a character and I'll start making like, you're working on the kit, like you read the research on him, you're like, oh, this guy's a badass. Like, I want to give him a worthy kit of this, and then you look back, you're like, wait, what does he get? Rare, damn it! Like it's like you want. I've like got all these things in my mind where this guy's gonna be like, the equivalent of like a void legendary. He's gonna be so awesome. And you're like, so regular rare. You're like,
I always have to
man.
push back on Dirk in design because of this, because Dirk will make some super strong hero, and I'll be like, Dirk, this ability's too strong. Well, I mean, it has to be strong. It's such and such. And you say that no matter who it is. Well, they have to be strong because it's so and so. I'm like, well, if you say that 200 times.
I said
We're
no
gonna
such thing
bounce
about
back.
Nefertiti, although I made her kit really good. So we'll see.
They turned subtitles off, but I've played it over and over again. He said Nefertiti. Nefertiti is an Aru character, a Queen Nefertiti. And Dirk's made her kit really good. So we'll have to see if he is a man true to his word on that front.
If you don't get an epic or a legendary in your first few months, whatever, playing, because you don't have a lot of time to play, you're not spending a lot. You be on the farm, whatever. You should still have plenty of characters to enjoy. Like there's so many, like a Spartan is like an uncommon, and he's pretty good. Like looks cool, fun to play with. Like there's a lot of characters like that. It's like in their own. If the game was like just a Greek mythology game, some of these characters like Odysseus or like even a Spartan, like you can easily make a case like, oh yeah, you can be a legendary. Spartan should be like an epic, but it's just like the game isn't just Greek, and there's so many things in the faction, and it's like it's hard. Sometimes you got to put some big names down pretty low in the rating.
Yeah, that's always shocking.
But yeah, it's so hard to like not give them like the majesty they deserve, I guess. So like
I think that's kind of funny. So, Guan Yu was a hero shown to us maybe 2 weeks now, coming up for 2 weeks ago. And when I saw the concept up, I read at the bottom rare. I was like, ouch, dude. Like, that is a slap across the face for Guan Yu. The man's got a massive statue of him in China, sort of thing. Like, he was a great war leader in real life. People even presumed perhaps he might be a god of war. I don't think he was. I think he was just an actual person. But yeah, I saw Rare, was just like, ooh. But they make a good point. Not everyone can be a legendary, and say if it was just a Jade faction, perhaps Guan Yu would be higher. But say it's interesting seeing like sort of, I guess, the internal conflicts and the hard decisions that they have to make as a design studio when it comes to things like this. So literally just after the sort of character conversation, Dane then flips a question back to Brad and Dirk.
For you guys, since Brad, you always ask the questions, but kind of going back to what you guys were talking about the tutorials, I think everyone hates the tutorial. It's necessary, but no one wants to do it when you're playing a game. So, is there any thought about times when you naturally like reach a point in the game organically where like, oh, I'm starting to feel a little underpowered for things, and like in other games, and it's usually when they start talking to you about crafting, like, oh, if your weapons aren't strong enough, here's a way to upgrade them. You're probably starting to notice that you're not gathering things very efficiently anymore. Oh, here's a way to upgrade your bread basket and whatever. Like, are we doing stuff like that, or is it just that initial 2 minute? Here's what the buttons do, and get on with your life.
Well, yeah, both. You're getting that first like initial like hand holding. This is how you play the game. We don't want you to click something wrong because you have to. We want you to at least know the basics of how to what you're supposed to tap to get around. It's like the early navigation and then just how to play. Hopefully that's only a couple minutes long. Past that, as you unlock features through the game behind like account level or just progress, you'll then get it'll have its own little tutorial. So like when you get I don't know, can we say imprints? I guess like when you get that unlocked on your account, that'll have its own tutorial for it. We're not like just shoving. It's too much to shove everything in the first beginning of the game because all of a sudden you're going like, do I even like use this for the next week or two? But yeah, so you should hopefully get things like bite-sized chunks when it's relevant to you.
And also we want like a section where a player can go when they're in the mood, oh, they're laying in bed, they're just looking to gain some information on the game, like a
That's not what I do when I lay in bed, but each their own, Brad.
like a university type section where you can go and flip through a few different infographics and a few different pro tips and things you might have missed of like, oh, okay, that's cool knowledge to know. Oh, that's the strong hit chance, that's the weak hit chance. So like a section people can go to get more into the weeds and pursue that on their own time instead of us having to constantly hold their hand and take over their device and force them to kind of sit through things for 30 minutes.
That I like. Now, if you think back to Raid, for example, because a lot of you will have come from Raid. I remember when you first got Kale, for example, and then you got the Night Elf Archer woman. Like, it was so frustrating. You just want to go through the campaign modes. It's like, no, you must equip a helm to this person. Now you must upgrade it to level 4. Now you must do this. It's like, you just like, oh, come on, let me get on with it, sort of thing. And if I had the choice, I would have just clicked through it all. So, I like the fact that they've taken a similar route where, they're not going to tell you how to fight the clan boss until you get to level 10 and you can unlock the clan boss, then you'll have the tutorial. Same for maybe the arena, same for all these other things, which is quite common in a lot of games. I also like the fact that they're going to have like an archive, if you will, for you to refer back to if you forget things or if you are like me, or you just let me get on with the game. So I do like that. I think that's a smart idea too. Dirk does mention imprints, which was an interesting sort of thing that he dropped there, which we'll get to later on in the video. But yeah, I like the fact that hopefully the tutorial's not going to be too long and boring and we can just go through it. Like, as Dane said, it's like a necessary evil in a way. Like, for us who have played them before, we'll have the general idea on how the game works, but you've got to have it for the younger kids who perhaps haven't played Raid or Epic 7 or anything like that. So yeah, necessary evil, but nice that perhaps we're not going to be forced to sit through 30 minutes or so. So around the 23-minute mark comes the conversation and the bit that sort of concerns me a little bit. Like, I understand sort of what they're saying, but I really don't like it. So let's go take a look.
Of the gameplay experience where the resources are almost infinite, and none of the things you do really matter, and you can move things around without any sort of like big cost. And
Only super late game, by the way.
that allows people to like not make big decisions that they're kind of committed to without having enough information, like enough game knowledge. And I don't know if you guys can speak to that. Is that something we've also said? Like, is there a time where like, yeah, I just move stuff around, try things, and then later when you know a bit more, now, because we know when if you just try things indefinitely with no cost, that kind of takes some of the like, it doesn't feel as
Yeah, like build permanence. I think
Yeah.
a lot of games, will end up lacking. Where you feel like one of the fun things is to be like, this is my character. This is how I built them, and you want to like show it off. I know Ash is a lot of his content he puts on a YouTube raid is very much in that vein of like, this is how I built this character, and like he's always like proud to show it off, and it's cool. And that's like for me, that's one of the fun parts of a game. It's like making a unique build for a character where it feels special. You're like, I can't wait to go own someone in PvP with this, because they're probably not expecting this or something. Like,
By the way,
But,
Dirk, to your point, quick shout out teaser. We may have a mode in the game. Well, that's an even bigger deal. Showcasing a build.
Now, I will say that is cool. Showcasing a build, being pretty cool. Dragonair actually did something like this as a community event where they did like a points-based system where if you had a chest with attack percent, you got 4 points. Then if it rolled crit rate and crit damage, you got an extra sort of 3 and 4 points. And then for every substat roll in that crit rate and crit damage, you get another 3-4 points. And then whoever had the best piece in the season got some freebies. That I really liked, and if they do something similar to that, I think that is cool. So the fact that they've got some sort of game mode to sort of show that off, I do like that. But the overall topic of conversation, I still hate.
Yep. So, all about like showing off builds, because it's like I don't know, expressing your creativity, I guess. And everyone wants to do that within the game. It's just fun to do. That's why people play games where you get to customize stuff, right? So, shit, let's get a little off track. Wait, Dean, what were you asking that about?
Oh, it's more like so that I understand the importance of committing to a build and like putting time into it and like testing it. But there's an earlier step where you don't want people to like not do anything because they know
Right,
important later.
We're trying to, I guess, so we want you always broke when it comes to your resources. Like you always should be using them, and you always should feel like you need more. Like, oh shit, I gotta go farm some more, or whatever. Because it does always feel stupid. Like, I don't know. One of the things I had in Watcher of Realms, I felt like I had infinite gold in that game. It was like I could never upgrade enough stuff because you just know immediately before you even really commit to upgrading anything if it's garbage or not. You rarely ever get anything worth upgrading, and you just end up at a point where you just have literally it's infinite gold. Like I might as well not even show me a number at this point. And so we don't want that, because if there's something in the game that is supposed to feel valuable, like it needs to feel like scarce enough, or you just need to be using it in quantities where you always feel like wanting it more.
So, I mean, I haven't played Watcher for in great depth for a long time. But in none of these games have I ever felt that I had an infinite pot of gold. You know, maybe that's just because I didn't get far enough. And I understand when you get to a certain point, very late end game, you've got all these super rolled gear that have rolled perfect stats. You don't need to roll anything else, so you are just going to accumulate resources. But that's only so late in the game that, you know, maybe a lot of people aren't even going to get to that stage. And, you know, especially raid, I never had any silver because the cost to move things over. And something that Sapira pointed out in one of his streams the other day, he was mentioning that he's got no accessory storage because he wants to keep various pieces and things like that for each of the factions. And it's not worth it for him to pull the stuff out of his mailbox because it will cost him $500,000 to upgrade a piece. And then if it rolls poorly, he only gets 50k back. Like, the economy there is so bad. So I really dislike that this is the route that they're perhaps going down, where they always be broke on resources. there's got to be a middle ground somewhere there. Like that does not sit well with me personally. We'll continue what they have to say though.
But not at the cost, I guess, like experimentation. So we are kind of trying to like we have an attunement system plan in the game. So we will have free gear swapping. And oh, you have free gear swapping. Now it feels like you don't really have a build because I can just put my best stuff on whoever I'm using for this content. But we have an attunement system that will add a feeling of permanence to that. Where it's okay, well, there was free swapping, but I can attune it. Now it's part of this character.
That's the importance of watching everything all the way through before you have an opinion. Okay, so it did sound like they had some sort of permanent swapping attunement system to. Now, perhaps that then refers to like you can fix a set of gear onto a character to have better stats, or you get some sort of benefit bonus for keeping it on that person. Maybe that benefit increases over time, perhaps. You get half an attack point every day you keep it on that person. So then after 180 days, all of a sudden, that sort of perhaps mediocre bit of kit is, even though it rolled poorly, has now gone up to like whatever a maximum roll might have been. So you never want to take it off and lose those additional stats. That could be some sort of workaround if that's how this attunement system works.
And I want to keep it on this character, but try to save my resources here. So yeah, it's all about like I guess balancing. Like same thing with like in the game when you're playing the game modes. One thing that we like a lot is like being able to experiment with different teams to try to beat content, more efficiently or with just different characters, whatever, different builds. Not having you just blow all your energy just to try out different things. So there'd be like almost like a test version of a lot of the content. Once you beat it, you kind of get like a practice mode where you'll get the like freedom to go and try out different team compositions or builds on your characters without burning through all your energy. And then when you want to commit to it, then you can farm it with your energy. So we'll have a lot.
That I do like. So Dragonair is very similar. When you go into a run, you don't actually use the stamina if you fail it, kind of thing. Now, what they're going on about might be something completely different, where you don't use any energy at all. It's a practice run. You get no rewards for it. You just run Dragon, for example, see what the outcome was. You get no rewards, nothing happens, but you now know that team works. So then when you go into the actual Dragon, you can then use that team, start using your energy. So, whichever route they go down, whether you sort of like submit and that's when your energy is done after you sort of submitted a time or what have you, or whether there is a separate practice mode, I do like that part. I'm still concerned about them wanting us to always be broke, because that just encourages spending. And whilst I do spend in games, did have me worried.
A lot of things like that where it's like, yes, your resources will be limited when it comes to farming and upgrading your gear and all that, but you should be able to always experiment with different builds.
I need to give the host legal disclaimer that all of this is subject to change, and we can't confirm any of these features or.
Yeah. This is like our goals, right?
Well, Brad says that. This is the other thing, right? And I get what he's doing, covering their backs, but I'm pretty certain Godforge is feature locked at this point. Right, so they've got a map of, all the releases, exactly what they're going to be doing, not doing, and maybe I'm misunderstanding it. But if you're feature locked, the features surely can't be changed unless they're going to get such a backlash that they have to. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being miserable, but yeah, certainly that sort of section, did have me a little worried. I get they've got to make money. They are a business, not a charity, as I had said before. But yeah, it does make you wonder, doesn't it?
I found, especially in other genres of games, is how much flexibility do you have to take a character that you really like who might not be that good, but can you like kit them out to be near enough? Like if you just really like this character, like their animation, their look, or it's
Yeah.
like I don't know. I play these old games like Cold Step, which are these weird like board/card game, like deck builder games on like PS4 and stuff like that. And sometimes you just had like cool cards, and you just want to play them, and you're like, I know this card isn't the best card, but I like this type of deck or I like this type of team. So you're willing. I played some other gotchas like Puzzle and Dragon back in the day, Terra Battle. These are like crazy hero collectors, and you could do stuff to make characters that you like up close or near enough to the characters that were the most like the ideal choice, because maybe the design you didn't like as much. You're like, I don't want to play this like fat troll. I'd rather play this like hot babe.
Yeah, you gotta bring your wife.
But she's not as good. But can I
Not
make her as good?
Warmother.
Or I like this cool like nunchuck guy, and because he's the only nunchuck guy. I know we're not trying to get into spoilers or something, but like our equip system, I assume has some degree of that. Like you can outfit the hero you like to be competitive.
Just jumping in here. So what I think Dane is on about is, or they're trying to sort of let us know is, could an epic or a rare fulfill the same role as a legendary? Like, is there a way that you can beef them up enough that it's not a case of, oh, if you don't have Odin, you can't do this? Like, can you use Guan Yu? Can you use Leonidas and still get the same sort of output? That's my perception of this conversation.
Within
Yeah.
a range.
Yeah, well, first of all, I think none of our rares suck, which is good. So everything that's like raring up should be like obviously legendaries. We've got them built where they just have better stat budget,
Always going to happen.
more powerful like buffs and debuffs, and just the kit overall is a little more complex. It can do more. You should get a lot more mileage out of them. But I think epics certainly will be very much viable. But even a decent amount of rares, depending on how they build them. But also even for characters that don't pan out to be like super viable in all, like in some of the rares and whatnot, there should still be a bit of like excitement when you get some of them because of the imprint. Which, Brett, how should we talk about the imprint system? I don't want.
Because of the inference. So this conversation was really interesting. I'm going to save the deep dive into it for another video, which I'm going to hope to collab with someone and get their point of view on it as well, because I feel like this is going to be interesting. But again, we'll let it play through just to give us an idea.
I don't want this to be like the imprint spoiling.
You're like worried that we're gonna have to,
yeah.
we might be leaking features, but it's fine.
It's something to cut out here, but there will be a way to use your rare characters, epics, and other, I guess, legendaries too. But even if they might not be viable as the character themselves, a part of that character may be viable on a different character who is meta. So we'll say that. So even if there's a character, you get someone like a Lady Zoc, like, she's just not that good. I got another character who kind of does the same thing, but just a little bit better. Why would I ever use Lady Zoc? You're a little bit that one part of Lady Zoc though, and you're like, that one part would be really good on this character though. So then you get that Lady Zoc, and all of a sudden you're like, cool. I don't need her specifically, but I need this from her.
Now that's really cool. Firstly, Lady Zoc is a spoiler. Now, Lady Zoc is sort of links back to our Saber spoiler. Saber scenery spoiler that we had a while back. One of the sort of facial imprints on the wall was of an ancient Mayan king. Lady Zoc was a queen of the Mayan city of Palenque. Go check her out, that's cool. So we've got a spoiler that firstly, she's probably not that great. I don't know if that should be a spoiler, but something about her is good. We're going to leave it there. You can sort of mull it over yourselves, but that I did think was interesting for us all to think about. And that is it from us today. So the rest of the conversation's just Dane and Dirk talking about games they're playing, things they enjoy at the moment, which I'll leave you guys to watch in your own time. But yeah, a few things sort of spoiled to us there. Some of them good. As I said earlier in the video, some of them does concern me slightly. I do have enough faith in the team running the show that it's not going to kill us, but it does make you wonder. So there we are, guys. Thank you for taking the time to watch this. Take care, look after yourselves, work hard, but as always, play harder, and I'll see you in another one soon. Cheers.